Good morning and welcome back to day 2 of Excel 1. You are in the right place if you have come back for day 2. We appreciate that. We're glad you're here. Today's session is being recorded, so you may leave your camera off if you like, but we would love to see your smiling faces on a smaller group like this. As a note, you are muted upon entry. You have to unmute yourself to speak. And we will be making use of the chat box today as well for our discussion. I will be monitoring the chat box. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in there. Again, as we said yesterday, if we are Zoom bombed, this meeting will end immediately and we will reschedule it for another time and send you another link. We typically don't have a problem with that because we guard our Zoom links very, very privately. We keep them private and we only send them out once you've registered with us. So we are so happy you're here, and I am going to stop sharing my screen right now. Since you guys have heard all of my spiel yesterday, nothing much has changed today. I am just here to be the hostess. You have some lovely private coaching available today from our friend Charlie Olszewski and Dennis Bowen. So if you need any help, we can happily send you to a little private chat room with them and they can work their magic and teach you whatever it is that you're missing. You were a pretty sharp crowd yesterday though, so I don't think we're going to need to do that, but who knows. If you have any questions, feel free to use the chat box, and if you drop out of this and have issues, again, feel free to email me and I will help you get back on. So without further ado, I pass this to Martin.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming back. One of the things I'd like to do before we get started today is for Rose and NA and Eshrod, if you'll unmute yourselves, and I'd like for you to tell me a little bit about yourself, what you're trying to get out of the course, so I can just, get a little more idea what I can do for you. So Rose, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm Rose Eaglehoff, and I am the receptionist at the Campus for Creative Aging. Well, actually I'm a remote receptionist, which is really interesting. But I am, for years I've used Excel in terms of people have set it up and I've kind of worked with it after it was set up. And so it's always been like little parts of it are a mystery to me. And the basic parts, it's because I kind of get it as a data entry sheet, and then I just keep it up. So I've always felt like I've never had a training, and it's always something I wanted to do. So I'm pretty excited about doing this.
Great. Well, we're glad to have you. I don't know about NA and Eshrod. If you guys are still muted, if you could unmute yourself, we'd love to hear from you. There we go.
Hello, yeah, my name is Noren and I'm studying business at college. So sometimes I used to struggle with, accounting assignments and stuff. So yeah, that's why I joined this class.
Great, well, I'm glad to have you.
Yeah.
My name is Ishraq, and I can do formulas in Excel, so I hope to learn this class.
Great. Well, we're happy to have you. If you guys, for only 3 of you, if you want to stay unmuted and ask a question, it's not going to bother me. So as we get going, I'd like to, I'm going to share my screen again and get started here today. If I can push the button. Okay. What we went over yesterday was the basic features. And before I get started on what I want to talk about today, does anybody have any questions that I can answer today? Everything was crystal clear yesterday. Didn't seem like mud. If not, I've got a whole list of objectives for today. First of all, we're going to talk about organizing and formatting the worksheet today. I'm going to insert rows and columns. Once you've developed a spreadsheet, there may be times where you want to insert a row and a column. It's a very easy process. Excel allows you to customize itself at all times. From there, I want to talk about adjusting the column width and adjusting the row height. Excel comes with standard widths and heights, and sometimes your information does not fit into the cell. So I want to show you how to increase both of those. Then we're going to jump over to selecting different worksheets. And quite simply, that is just going down to the bottom of your worksheet and selecting whether it's sheet 1, sheet 2, or sheet 3. Or we could rename these things. Those names do not make a lot of sense to a lot of people. So make up a name that makes sense to you. It's your worksheet. You customize it to make it your work itself. We can add or delete worksheets. Typically with Excel 2016 and 2019, you only see sheet 1 now. You used to have come up with 3 sheets. It doesn't make any difference. There's a very easy way to add worksheets. If you decide to delete a worksheet, I want you to think about using caution, quite honestly, because if you delete the worksheet, all of that work you put into it will be gone. And I do not want to make you mad at me. Then I want to talk about organizing worksheets. Just because they in the order they come up as sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, we can move those around any way we want. So once we've renamed them, we can take sheet 3 and move it over to sheet 1. It's very, very simple to do. But here again, it makes it where it's a lot more convenient for you. From there, that's kind of the organizing part of the lesson plan. Then I want to get into formatting. First thing we're going to talk about is worksheet legibility. Sometimes you'll get a worksheet that either has a font type or a font size that you don't care for. You easily change that. You may even want to take your headers and bold them. There's numerous things you can do making your worksheet more legible. Then I want to go into formatting cells for dates, number, and currency. All of this formatting, is related to numbers. And you may not think of a date as numbers, but that's the way the Excel thinks of it. Same thing with numbers and currency. Then I'm going to get in a little more extensive use of formulas today. We'll be entering some of those and creating some. And then where I want to wrap up today is I want to show 2 processes for automatic formatting. One comes from Excel 2010 and prior, the way that used to be done. And Excel has now been improved quite a bit. So there's a new way to do it. I'm going to show you both ways so that you can pick the one you like and if you want to automatically format. And then we'll switch over to manually formatting a spreadsheet. When we start doing this, this allows you to customize it in almost any way you can imagine. So I'm going to stop the sharing right now and come back. And what I would like for you to do is to open a practice file up. And Amy should have sent you the lesson 2 practice files. And I'd like for you to open up lesson 2, part A. So I'll give you just a little bit to do that. I will go back to my screen sharing and try to pull that up myself. Whoop, that's not it. Try again.
I renamed the files I sent to you guys as lesson 2 at the beginning, and then all that introduction to Microsoft Excel. So it'd be easier to find. So you're just looking for lesson 2 at the beginning.
That's too easy.
Okay, truth be told, it was because I was struggling to find all of these and I had them all in one folder, which was not a good idea. So I was cheating a little for me.
Amy, if you could see what I've got on my computer, I've got every Excel class I've done for the last 10 years. So I could really confuse you if you want me to.
No, thank you. I have enough because I have classes on everything, folders on everybody. And
All right.
Let's be real, I'm easily confused.
Never. All righty.
I'll have to do my file naming lecture.
All right, what you should have up on your screen now is lesson 2, part A. And if you notice, there are some things here that are probably not, the best way you could ever have them. For example, the word month is chopped off, and in column C, that should be electricity. Water's kind of cut off. And if you notice, totals goes from column E to column F. But before we get to there and fix those issues, I want you to take a look at the months, because from here on out throughout the course, I'm going to give you spreadsheets that need to be fixed. And if we start looking at our months, we go January, February, May, June, July, and August. Do you think there's anything missing here? Maybe like March or April? And if there is, let's add a new row. So what we do to add a new row, so we come over in the row heading. I'm going to go to the row heading for row 5. And when I go there, if you notice when I'm in the row heading, I'll get that black arrow pointing to the right. And what I'd like to do is have you right click here, and we come down and you get a menu, and we click on insert. When I click insert, notice I've added a new row. May, June, July, and August have all moved down. And if I want to add another row, I'll show you another way to do it. If we go up to the ribbon in the cells group near the right-hand side, you'll see the commands insert, delete, and format. So go ahead and left click on insert one time. And that will add a second row, to our spreadsheet. So now we actually have room to add March and April. But that's the hard way to do it. So let me show you an easier way. I'm going to go all the way to the top of the screen, the left-hand side, and go to the back arrow. And it's the second button from the left. It's kind of an arrow pointing backwards. I'd like for you to left click that twice. First time we'll take it out one row. The second time we'll take out the second row. And we're back to where we started. Because this time I want to show you how to insert 2 rows at a time instead of just 1. So this time I'd like for you to come over to select row 5, drag your mouse down, and select row 6. We're going to select 2 rows at once. Once you've done that, I'm going to go back up to that insert function up on the ribbon. Click that one time. And you should know that now that I've inserted 2 rows at one time. So you don't have to do this one by one. So now what I'd like to go ahead and do is I'm going to go to cell A5 and type in March, M-A-R. Press enter. And I'm going to type in, put in April, A-P-R. So now we have our months the way they should be. A lot better order than we had before. Does everybody understand inserting rows? You can insert them at any place. You basically, if you want to insert a row, you select a row and it's going to move everything else down and give you an empty space for the row you insert. Now what I'd like to do is switch horses a little bit. And this one's not obvious, but I'll let you know that we have missed something in our columns. We've got rent, electricity, water, and totals. I forgot to put in gas. So we need to have some gas. So I'm going to go up to column D into the heading. You should see that black arrow pointing down. Select that. Now I'm going to go over back to the cells group and click on insert. If you notice in column D now, water has moved over to column E and totals has moved to column F. Also, you may note that electric moves into column D as in dog. The reason there's nothing in that column. So I'd like for you to select cell D2 and type in gas. And if you notice, when I did that, it chopped off cell C2 for electricity. We're going to fix those here in just a little while. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to make it try something. I'd like for you to go to sheet 2, and it actually worked. I hope whoop. When I go to sheet 2, I'm making mine a little bit bigger so it's easier for you to see. Right when I first opened up this sheet 2, it went to cell A1. You can see that's highlighted. And if you look up in the formula bar, and I tried to make my formula bar bigger today, if you look up there, it says text is too wide for column A. There's nothing in columns B through D. So if you notice, the text spreads all the way across to column E if there's nothing in cell in B, C, or D. And if I switch down, select cell A3, in this one, the text is too wide for column A, but I have something in columns B through D. So you can see it truncates it, text is 2W. And that's basically telling me that I need to make my columns wider. But I want you to understand that how Excel does that. Everything in cell A3 is the entire text you see in the formula bar. But it's one of those things that it's, you almost need to see that, to understand it. So let's go back to sheet 1. So go down to the bottom of your sheet, left click on sheet 1, and we're back to where we were just a few minutes ago. As I mentioned, for the cell A1, or excuse me, A2, C2, E2, and F2, our column widths need to be bigger. So I'm going to show you how to adjust column widths. And I'm going to show you, like yesterday, I'm going to show you 4 different ways. Not necessarily to confuse you, but to show you there's many ways to do it. I'm going to, first of all, select column, look at column C, get up in the heading. And if I move my mouse between column C and column D up in the heading, I'll get a cross with arrows pointing right and left. If I click on my left mouse button and drag it, I can make the column as big as I want. Or if I go back the other way, I can make it as small as I want. So here again, you can manually adjust the width of the columns. The next one I want to talk to you about is adjusting the column width using the format menu. So on this one, I'd like to select column C, which you go up in the heading and left click that. Hold down your control button and select column D and E. And might as well do F2. So what I'm going to do is I want to change the format of these for the column width. I'm going to do them all at one time as opposed to doing one by one. So here, I want you to go back up to that good old cells group that we had with insert. And this time I want you to left click on format. And when you get to format, you're going to get several options on this menu. And what I'd like for you to do is left click on column width. It's the third one down. And you'll get a little box. Unfortunately, the box is tiny. And in this one, you can type in whatever size you want. To let you know, if all the columns were the same width, you'd get a number in there, but they're not. So I'm going to type in the number 16 and left click on OK. Notice now columns C, D, E, and F are 16 characters wide. They're all plenty big for the words that are in them. Now what I'd like to do is to do something very similar. Is I'm going to use what we call Autofit. Basically, Autofit will make the size of the column equal to the size of the largest piece of data you have in that column. So this time, let's select columns B. You can hold down your shift button and click on column F. So using that shift, we basically selected B through F for the columns. Now we'll go back up to that good old format icon in the cells group. And from there, I'm going to go one down. It says Autofit column width. Left click on that. You notice the columns are different widths, but they fit the words exactly. And that's the third method. The fourth method I want to use is adjust the column width using the mouse. And this is a fun little one. I'm going to go up between columns A and columns B, get that same thing we had a while ago where I manually moved it. And I get that arrow at the cross. And if I double click here, that will adjust, column A to auto fit. So we basically have gone through four methods. The first method was to take the mouse and just manually make it bigger. The second one, we used the format icon and chose column width, and we chose a specific width for our column. The third process, we selected the columns we wanted to work with, and we went to format icon, and we select auto fit column width. And then when I came over here to adjust the month, I got up here in the column heading, got that little cross with the arrows, and I double clicked and I auto fit the width of column A. Four different methods, and I want you to know all four, and primarily because sometimes one will be a lot more, you want to use it more than another. For example, if you wanted all your column widths the same size, you go to column width. I typically use the auto fit, and when I start entering in data, sometimes if I have data that gets bigger than what my titles were, then I can go back and either auto fit, or sometimes it adjusts on its own. I will tell you if you're entering numbers in, and I'll just enter a number in here. In cell C5, I'm going to enter a bunch of sevens. If I go bigger than what my column width is, I'm going to click outside that cell. You notice it automatically adjusted the width. Sometimes you'll get a series of pound signs. Let me get the pound. You see these pound signs anytime when you're dealing with numbers, that's going to tell you that your column width is too big, so you need to adjust it. You can come up and adjust your column width, and it works out just great. I'm going to delete these two. I just selected the cells and hit the delete button. Now we've adjusted our column widths, and this looks pretty good. Let's play around with the row heights. And you can see the row height are all the same for each one of them. Let's select cell A2. It has the word month in it. This time, I'm going to send you back up to the ribbon. We're going to go to the font group. You notice this says it's Arial, is the type, size 10 next door to it. I'd like for you to left click that little arrow next to the 10, right side. And you notice you can just kind of scroll down. If I just scroll down through here, if you notice my month changes as I scroll. And if I find something where I want it, I'm just going to select the 20. Now you can see as it's gotten, we increased the font size. Most certainly we need to adjust the column width. But this is one way to do it. If I wanted to go back, say 16, it's just going to make it a little bit smaller. I want to go back to where I started to size 10. And notice when I get size 10, now our column width is just exactly where we want it. That's the first method. I say there's 4 methods to do this. The next method I want to do is to adjust the row height using the mouse. So I'm going to go over and take my mouse. I'm going to go between rows 2 and 3. I should get that cross with the arrows. Hold my left mouse button down. I'm just going to drag it down. I can manually make the row height a different size. And next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to adjust the row height using the format menu like I did before. So I'm going to select rows 2, hold down the control button, select row 4 and row 6. I'm going to do 3 of them at a time. This time, I'm going to take you back up to the cells group into that format icon, left click that, and I'm going to go to Autofit row height. Notice they're all back nice and neat. Another method, I'm just going to select some different rows so they don't always do the same thing. I'm going to select rows 3, 5, and say 8. Just hold, click one and then use the control button to select the other rows. If I go up to format and this time I go to row height instead of the auto fit, I get a number. You notice this one happened to come up as 12.75 because all of these rows are the same height. Let's just go ahead and make this say 24. Type in 24, left click on OK. So 3 rows now are 24 characters high. And the fourth method is to use the use the mouse to do auto fit. And if you notice I'm between rows 3 and 4. If I get my little arrow there, a little cross, double click the mouse. I'm going to make row 3, actually because I had them all selected, it auto fits all of them. So you don't have to do them individually. So there's 4 different ways to adjust row height, and we also talked about column width. At this moment, does anybody have any questions about what we're doing with row height and column width? If you do, you can either unmute yourself or send Amy a chat, and I'll be happy to try to clarify anything that you don't understand. If not, I want to go on to taking a look at adding worksheets. If you go down to the bottom of your screen in the workbook, you'll notice you have sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. Right now, we have sheet 1 selected, and this makes a big difference on when you add a worksheet where it's going to be placed. And what I'd like for you to do is to slide over, and you see that little plus button? Left click on the plus button. You notice we now have sheet 4. It got added right behind sheet 1. And depending on which sheet you have selected is where you'll insert a new sheet. So if I select sheet 3, for example, left click on the plus button, I've now added sheet 5 to the end. You can add as many sheets as you want. I happen to have one worksheet that I do some financial stuff at the end of the month, and I probably got 10 or 15 different sheets. I'm just crazy and make things like that. So we most certainly can add as many sheets as we want. If we want to delete a sheet, let's say let's delete sheet 4. What I do is select it, and then I right click in that sheet, and the second one down is delete. And I want you, as I mentioned before, I want you to be careful deleting a sheet. I had nothing in sheet 4. So when I deleted that, I was confident I wasn't going to lose all my data. So there's, now we've got sheet 1, 2, 3, and 5. You notice it did not go back from sheet 4 to sheet 5 to sheet 4. Once you have added a worksheet, it's going to just increase the next number. And quite honestly, I don't like the word sheet in here. It doesn't mean a thing to me. I like to name my worksheets so it has some meaning. So let's go back and reselect sheet 1. And I right clicked on that. And you notice the third one down in the menu is rename. I left click on that. Sheet 1 now you can see is shaded. When it's shaded, I'm going to just type over that. I'm going to type in the word my expenses. And just click outside there to select it. And now, even though we don't have any data in the my expenses worksheet, it now says my expenses instead of sheet 1. And I think when you do that, name them to something that means something to you. And with Excel 2000, probably since 2010, you actually have 256 characters. Some people are always worried about making something very, very small, but name it to something that means something to you. Here again, you're personalizing this to make it your workbook.
That's more characters than Twitter.
Here again, I'm not a Twitter person, so you'll teach me on that, I'll bet.
Sorry, but I have a question.
Sure, go right ahead.
You delete the sheet, but if I do a hide, where it's gonna be?
I did that.
Delete.
If she hides the sheet, where does it go?
It's gone.
But when I open another sheet, it's give me a lot of sheets.
Right.
Yeah.
For example, if I'm in sheet 3 right now. If I click the plus button, I'm going to have sheet 6. Sheet 4 will never come back. It'll just keep increasing the numbers from one to the other. But once you delete a sheet, and that's why I want you to be careful doing it, is if you have some data in there, you spend a lot of time, creating this worksheet, you're going to lose that data, and it's not coming back. So that's a question to you to be careful. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Great.
Hiding, also remember, hide sheets or rows or columns, that's different than deleting them. In other words, I can put together a workbook that has 4 sheets, and I may want to hide one of those sheets so that people can't see that stuff. And that's different than deleting.
If I right click, there is a hide sheet, and I can click on that. It goes away. I'm not sure how you get it back. I've never hidden one. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is organizing your sheets. Right now for this one, I've got my expenses, sheet 2, sheet 3, and sheet 5. If I want to move one of these, let's say I want to take sheet 5 and actually move it. If I hold down my left mouse button when I'm pointing at sheet 5, you should see a little symbol that comes up. Looks like a little page with a crossed over page. And I don't know if you can see it from here, but on the top left-hand corner of sheet 5, you'll see a little black arrow pointing down. If I start to move this, and I'm going to move it to the right. Right now it moved over between sheet 2 and sheet 3. I move it again, and it's between my expenses and sheet 2. I let go. Sheet 5 is now moved. So I can move these in any way I want them. And this gets especially important when you start creating sheets that you use quite often. You may put the one you use most often first. But here again, you name them. You can put them in alphabetical order. You can name them any way you want. One of the things that's not included in the lesson plan that I always like to show people is you can add color to the sheet names. So this time I'm going to right click on sheet 2 and I have tab color. And I'm just hovering on tab color right now. I can go through and pick any color I want. I'm just going to pick red. And then if I click outside that sheet or click another sheet, excuse me, you notice you have sheet 2 is in red. If you have several sheets, this sometimes makes it easier on your eye to be able to see them.
All right, Marty, that is super cool. I have used Excel for years and never known that I could do that.
There's magic to be had in Excel. And here again, I want you to understand these are your workbooks and your worksheets. So you make them the way that you want them, and I think you'll be a lot happier. What I'd like to do right now is to save this workbook. This workbook is lesson 2, part A, but it's also now it started out with 3 sheets. Now it happens to have 4 sheets. So I'm going to go up to the file and click on left click Save As. And you can put this back to where you got your lesson from. I'm just going to put mine in Documents. If you notice, lesson 2, part A is highlighted down in blue. I'm going to click in front of the LM lesson, type in the word my lesson, and make it my lesson 2, part A, and click on Save. Unfortunately, because of Zoom, I cannot see the title bar up in the very top in the middle, but I hope on your computers you'll be able to see it says My Lesson 2 Part A. So now you have what we started with and what you finished with. I want you to have both workbooks so that you can, see how you did it. Is there anybody have any questions? Alrighty, well, I'm going to go ahead and close this workbook. And I got out of screen sharing by doing that, but that's just fine. I get to see all of you even better. This time I'm going to have you open up a new one and take a wild guess what it might be. Maybe lesson 2, part B as in Bravo. So I'm going to click on that. I'll share the screen. And I've got a new worksheet for sheet 1. And if you notice, I told you before, I'll probably give these to you not in a nice and neat manner, but in something we need to fix. But here again, this is going to reinforce what we talked about previously. So on this one, this is a corporate stock purchasing spreadsheet. I'd like for you to select columns B through J. So to do that, come up here in the column, and when you see the column with the arrow pointing down, select that, left click, and this way just come over and hold down your shift button and select column J. This has selected everything from B to J. Much easier than trying to do this individually. Now I'm going to take you back up to that format button we just did a while ago. Left click on that. I'm going to auto fit column width. Hopefully that looks a lot better than what we started with. And I have a practice once I make a change, is I click outside my data to see what the change actually was. So what I want to do now is I want to make my row headings bold. So I'd like for you to select cell B3 and take your cursor and slide over to cell J4. And in that way, we have selected all those cells in our header. If everybody's got that one, I'm going to go up to the ribbon, up in the font group on the left-hand side, just underneath the Arial and 10, there's a symbol for B, and that's for bold. If you'll left click that symbol, we now have bolded all of our headers. The other thing, if you notice now, when I'm in any of these cells, the B in bold is highlighted. So you can always tell what's turned on and turned off by what's highlighted or shaded. And so since we're doing this, let's also select cells B6 to C8. And I'm going to bold those. So here again, when you're doing headers, it's sometimes better to bold them and they stand out from your other data as we start putting in the data in there. All right, does this make sense? If we have a spreadsheet, and obviously I've not put any data into it, but what I'm going to do now is I want to take you to formatting. I'm going to show you how to format the data before we ever put any data into it. So I'd like for you to select column D as in dog, and we select that, and I'm going to show you a couple different ways, but I want you to understand where it's all coming from. Is once I've selected column D, I'm going to go up to my ribbon. This time I'm going to go to the number group, and I'm going to left click on that little bitty dialog box down in the bottom right hand corner we talked about yesterday. Click on that, and I come up with a format cells dialog box. And since I'm interested in selecting formatting column D for a date, you notice my categories. I got general, number, currency, accounting, and date. So if you'll left click on date, when you left click on that, you'll see a whole bunch of different formats. And I'm just going to scroll down through them. They all work. The one I'm going to have you select is the 031412. Select that with your left mouse and then click OK. What did we get? Nothing. Because we don't have any data within our spreadsheet, so we have to put some data in. So I'm going to have you type in March and spell this out, space 14th, comma, space 2002. And once you spell it out all the way, now press enter. What do we get? You notice it's 03/14/02. Even though we typed in March 14th, 2002, because we formatted this data for the date the way it is, whatever you type in there is going to come out as that date. But you do have to type put the date in with the spaces and the commas. Otherwise, it won't appreciate you. So that's our first step in formatting. Here again, keep in mind when we're formatting this column D now, everything in there is now formatted for that date, which in essence is a number to Excel. And if you notice in cells D3 and D4 that the words purchase date, those are in text, and it did not overwrite those. It would only overwrite something you put in as a number.
Hey, Marty.
Yes, sir.
I think NA, I can't remember her name, said, could you please repeat that? I think it was about the formatting, but I'm not sure.
Not a problem. If I want to format column D, I go up to the column D heading, left click on that to select the column. And then I'm going to go up to into the ribbon, into the number group, and click on the dialog box. When I bring up the dialog box, because it's already formatted, you notice it comes up in the category under number, and also the date comes up, and the 0314/12 is selected. And that is what I want. If I wanted to choose a different one, I could just select a different one and say okay, but I'm going to keep that one. And NA, Norrin, does that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
You're more than welcome. And I want you guys to, ask questions anytime. And you can actually unmute yourselves anytime you want with 3 students. I don't think you'll overwhelm us. So thank you.
And Norrin, I changed your screen name so they would stop calling you NA.
Yeah, that's better. Thank you.
Not a problem. All righty. So that formatted column D, everything in column D, those 1,048,000 cells, every one of them is formatted for date now. Let's move over to column E as in Edward. This time, if you notice, it's shares bought. So here again, we're looking at a number here. So I'm going to select the column, go up in the column heading, left click on that. And then I'm going to go back to my number group and select that dialog box. And you notice my number now, this comes up as general because it's not been formatted. This time I want to select the number because we want to make that a number. And you notice we have a whole different bit of information over here. Under the decimal places, it comes up as 2. I can use the up arrow, the down arrow to make
I'm
it.
sorry, there's something wrong with my, when I click on that number, I don't get the dialog boxes. I just get number, and I'm in that where it says number, general, currency, accounting.
Right.
But when you click on it, all those options don't come up for me. Where is that?
Let me ask you, did you left click on number first?
I did. I left clicked on number, and then oh, am I supposed to right click then on it?
No, just left click. You should
Yeah, so I left clicked on it.
You should.
But there's no dialog box then. It's just
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know why. Is it not big enough? Let me see. Maybe it's just not big enough.
Maybe
That's okay. I mean, I know what it looks like generally. It's just
okay.
for some reason mine doesn't pop up when I choose it.
I'm not sure what's going on.
That's okay. I can watch yours, and I've done it myself, so I'm comfortable with that. I just wanted to make sure that
different in different versions of Excel.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm doing it not on the computer from work. I'm doing it on my home, which is an old version. But I clicked on what you gave me, in the email. So I don't really know, but that's okay. I can work with this. So that's it. We can keep going. I'm fine.
Well, if you can see what I'm doing on the screen, you can see what I'm trying to do.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay. If we come down one row down, it says use the 1000 separator. If I left click and I'll get a little check in that box, what that does, it puts a comma every time we get to 1000. So we'd have, if you got to 1000, you'd have 1 comma. If you got to 1 million, you'd have 2 commas. And then we have negative numbers. In this example, we're just going to have a total numbers of shares bought. So it doesn't make any difference, but you got 4 different formats. The first one's a 1234.10 with a minus sign. That will show up as in black. The second one is the same thing, but it's in red without the minus sign. and the other two have the little brackets around them. Later on, I'll actually get in and use these, but for this example, it won't make any difference. So go ahead and left click OK. Now let's go back to cell E6. I'd like for you to type in just the number 100 with no spaces and press enter. And what you should have gotten is the 100.00. Because we formatted, you don't have to put that, the decimal places in, but we most certainly, it came up that way when we added a number. Here again, it's all based upon the formatting. Alrighty, now I'm gonna take you to another kind of formatting. We're gonna look at currency. If you notice, columns F, G, H, I, and J all are related to currency. So let's select column F as in Frank. You can hold down your shift button and select column J. We're doing all these at once. I want to show you another way to get to that format cells box. This time, I'd like for you to hold down the control button and press the number 1. All of these get to the same place. And since we're talking about currency, I'm going to go down to the third one down, says currency. If you notice, we have something similar to what we had with numbers. The decimal places, we have 2. And I'm going to go ahead and leave that as 2. If I wanted to make it something different, I could change it. The second one's a little more interesting. It comes up the symbol. You see the $sign. I want you to go over to the right-hand side and left click on that little arrow pointing down. If you notice, you've got symbols for every currency in the world. So if you're not wanting to work with dollars, let's say you want to go to Russian or something like that, you go to any one you want. I'm going to stick with dollars because I don't know anything else.
You can even do Bitcoin. That's kind of cool.
Oh yeah. Not sure all that works, but I'm only sticking with dollars. And this time for the negative numbers, I'd like for you to select the last one, that 1234.10 in parenthesis that's red. So we have a negative number. It's going to show up as red. It'll stand out. So now we formatted all those cells. Let's go back to cell F6. I want you to type in number 10. Whoop, can't type. Number 10 and press enter. So if you notice now our buy price is $10. And let's go to cell G6. I like this one for the buy fee. Type in 25, press enter. You notice it's actually changing the column width to fit that 10 or 25, making it a little bit wider than what it was before. Now I'm going to put you to work, if you haven't already been there. What I'd like to do is have you enter in the data from cells D7 to D7 to G8. So we go over to select cell D7, and the data I have for you, if you have your lesson plan printed out, is on page 25 of the lesson plan, about 2/3 the way down the page. So I'd like for you to input that data. I'm going to do mine. One of the nice things you can do is you can type your data in, press the tab, and move right to the next cell.
I did not know you could use the tab either. Look at the things I'm learning today, Marty.
Amy, I'm so happy that I can help you.
I am happy you can help me too. Although we're supposed to be helping everybody else, not just me. But
Hey, if everybody learns something in one of my classes, I'm a happy person.
there you go. Well, you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you. I'm going to give you guys a minute or two to go ahead and get everything typed in. I don't want to get ahead of you. Because we're going to switch horses again very quickly. Okay, since I'm not a very patient person, I hope everybody has their data inputted. If they don't, let me know, and I'll hold on for a little bit longer. Where I want to do now, you notice we're in column H. We've entered in the data for columns D, E, F, and G. So now I want to do total cost. And total cost is going to become a calculation. So if you remember from yesterday, anytime we have a calculation, it starts with the equal sign. I want to do this. I'm going to go down a couple of cells. I'm just going to go to F10 to type this in. Because what this is going to be is I'm going to type it out in words. So total cost. I want to show you in words what I'm trying to calculate. So the total cost, and I'm going to put this in parentheses, so it does it first. Shares bought times, that's right above the shift above the number 8, times the buy price. One of the things, anytime you're using the parenthesis, you have to have an open one and a closed one. So we're going to have the total cost is the shares bought times the buy price, plus I want to add the buy fees. And the reason I'm typing this out in words is I want you to understand where the formulas, the actual formula is going to come from. For our example, our shares bought for Home Depot would be 100. The buy price would be 10, and the buy fees will be 25. So let's go to cell H6, and we're going to type in the formula. And we don't have any spaces when we add formula. I did it in words, so it'd be easier for you to see. So let's put in the equal, and you can go over and click on cell E6. You notice you click on it, it brings it over in blue. Whoop, and I actually forgot to put the parenthesis in. So I'm going to put the parenthesis, E6, put the times symbol in, and the buy price will be F6, and you notice it changes colors. Add the parenthesis, add the plus, and the buy fees. I find that when you're doing formulas, it makes all the difference in the world to see these colors. Also, if you notice up in our formula bar, everything I typed in is the same thing we had. So once you've entered that in, go ahead and press enter. And I'm hoping everybody came up with $1,025.
I really like how you laid that out there so that you could remember what you were doing.
Thank you.
I can't tell you the number of times I've done a formula and then screwed it up. Yep. And then copied it to other things. So that was nice.
And I've found out that if I take a look at this, I can just take this and work down my columns for what I had for my titles. So thank you, Amy. I usually do this in a PowerPoint, but it's one of those things I thought it'd be easier just to see it right on the screen. Okay. Now, like for you to, I'm actually going to give you, well, no, let's go backwards. I want to copy my formulas. So if I go to cell H6, you guys remember the fill handle from yesterday? I hope you do, because I want to make you use it. Take your mouse and you'll get that black cross, not with arrows. Left click and drag that down to the next two cells. All right. And I got those pound signs. Anytime you're dealing with a number, you come up with a pound sign, this means that the column width is too small. So it needs to be increased. So this kind of is an example of what we were talking about the Autofit a while ago. So if you go up between columns H and I, get that arrow with the cross, double click. We now make Autofit so we have the actual number. Alrighty, now let us go to our current price. I'm going to give you the current prices of these stocks. For I6, for the Home Depot, it'll be 21 to type, whoop, can't type, 21 and enter. For Microsoft, it'll be 67 and enter. And for Aflac, 32 and enter. Those just happen to be my magical prices for the day. So now we come to our gain or loss. And with the gain or loss, I'm going to type this, put this out in words like we talked about before, just to make, hopefully you can see where the cells come from. So my gain or loss, is equal to, I'm going to put parenthesis, the current price times the shares bought then I'm going to be minus the total cost. Oop, can't speak, can't type. This is going to become my formula. So we'll go back up to cell J6 and we're going to start typing this equals, and I'm going to put a parenthesis, the current price is I6 times the shares bought, which is E6, and I'll put in a parenthesis, and then minus the total cost, which is H6. Here again, we're jumping around columns, but if you notice, these are still color-coded, and you should be able to see that they're actually pointing to the cells we're interested in. This is always a nice visual cue to make sure you're on the right ones. So go ahead and press enter, and I have $1,075. So in our imaginary stock market today, we just made $1,075. Let's take a look and do that same calculation for the other two. So select cell J6 and come over to the fill handle. When you get that black cross, hold your mouse down and drag it down for the other two. Okay, I'm pretty good for Microsoft, but I got pounds. Whether they're red pound signs or they're black, they're still pound signs. So that's telling me that for J8, my column's too narrow. So I'm going to go between J and K up in the column heading, double click. Now for Aflac, the first two we made money, and for Aflac we lost money. So here again, that's the nature of the stock market. You gain and lose, but that's why we formatted that gain or loss. So if we had a negative number, it would show up as that format, the brackets in 1825 in red. I find by doing that, it just stands out. And if you have something that you're interested in, whether you're ahead or behind, that's a nice little feature to do. All right. You have actually now completed your second worksheet. You actually did one yesterday, but this one, hopefully you're seeing this is a little bit more involved, but we've applied the formatting to this. So we're actually seeing, our data come up the way we would expect it to. What I'd like for you to do is go down to the bottom of the sheet that says sheet 1. Go ahead and double click on sheet 1. This is another way to rename it. If you should see that sheet 1 is highlighted. Let's now call that My Stocks. And click outside back in the data. You see that turns green. So that's basically where we want to be. Is hopefully this all makes sense to everybody. I want to take it through so, I brought this down in words so you understand where my formulas come from. Sometimes formulas can get fairly complicated. So sometimes it's nice to use the headers to figure out what you want to do. This way, it's like I didn't try not to make too much magic up here. At this point, I want to introduce you to automatic formatting. And before, I believe it was Excel 2013, there was a different way to auto format. I'm going to show you two methods. I'm going to show you what's currently in 2016, 2019, but I also want to show you the old way. And to do this, I do not have an icon anywhere in any of the ribbon that goes back to that old auto formatting. But I want to show you a little trick so that you can add any icon that Excel recognizes, into your quick access toolbar. The quick access toolbar is in the very top row at the left side. And we did the undo button this morning, so that's where we were there. On the right-hand side of that, you see a little arrow with a line above it. Left click on that. And then I'm going to come down to choose to more commands, it's next to the last one. And what you see here in this box are every command that's, right now it's the popular commands. And if over on the right-hand side, you can see save, undo, and redo. Those are the three icons that you currently have. But since I told you, this icon is nowhere on any ribbon within Excel, I have to go up here to the popular commands, left click on that little arrow beside it. And then I'm going to left click on commands that are not on the ribbon, because there's certainly more commands in Excel than what they have on the ribbon. So what I want to do is slide down to where I see auto format. Select that. Now I'm going to add it. If you notice, auto format came over here to the right-hand side. Now left click on OK. And you should see on your quick access toolbar, you got a new icon. Looks like a little grid. And you can add any command within Excel onto that quick access toolbar. It's a nice quick place if you want a quick reference to be able to add things to. It's a great place to place it. So now we've got that command, and that's the old method. I'd like for you to select columns B3 to J8, basically all our data. And with that, we've selected all those, all those cells. I'm going to, do the auto formatting, and it's only going to format the cells I have selected. Here again, the biggest idea in Excel is you select a cell or a group of cells, then you go do something to them. So I'm going to go up and left click on that icon we just created. Wow. That is strange. Can you read yours?
Absolutely not. No.
I have never seen this gibberish before.
That is fun. Not.
Nor have I.
I'm going to go with it doesn't auto format with screen share.
Well, could be.
Yeah.
I'm going to click on that first one for simple and see if it works.
Okay.
And click on simple, say okay. It kind of worked. If you notice my formatting, I have a line above corporation, a line below name, and a line below, Aflac. It was supposed to give me colors, but for some reason that did not work. I just want you to see that, if I go into the auto format, I got to select cells. I go back to the auto format, and this should be nice and clear. And there's hundreds of these things, different colors, different formats. So this did not work the way it's supposed to. I'm going to blame it on Zoom.
Well, I don't know, Marty. I just did it on my laptop and it isn't working either. So I wonder if it's something, I've got 19 on this.
I have 16 on my computer. No. But what we're going to do here, let's go back up to the quick access toolbar and click on that back button, that arrow pointing backwards. And we're going to return it just to where it was before we had tried the auto format. So whatever happened, I don't know.
I don't know either. And like I say, I'm doing it on mine here at home, and it's really goofy.
Maybe
Oh, he's worked before. We've done this before.
If there wasn't something in one of these classes that went a little haywire, I wouldn't even know I was breathing.
Must be COVID.
Technology.
Yeah. So what I'd like to do now is show you the current method for auto formatting. So I unselected the cells. I'm gonna go back and reselect cells B3 to J8. If you already got them selected, you don't need to worry. And now what I'm gonna do is go back to the ribbon and get you used to that ribbon. And I'm gonna go up here to the styles group. And I'm gonna go all the way to the right-hand side and click that little arrow pointing down with a line above it. This gives me all of the potential formats within Excel 2016 or 18. And if you look at it, oh, this is doing some more tricks to me. Normally, there we go. If you just scroll around, you will see what the different formats look like. And I just went, I'm just going to scroll around, and you notice they're getting humongously big. And I'm just going to pick one. I'm just going to pick this 20% in light blue. Click on that. And of course, my size went out of proportion. I've never seen this one either. You guys won't believe me when I say this has never happened before. Whoa. I click outside there. If you notice that, I have just it's a light blue shaded background. Don't have any lines. I could have, picked a different one. If I go back to there, let's say I got to select my cells. I'm sorry. Go back there. Click on that. And I always like to click outside to be sure where I'm at. Now I've got like a gray background, white letters except for the negative. And obviously I changed the size of everything. So now I'd have to go back and do the the column width auto fit. I'm going to click on the back button to take it back where I was. And that's the blue one I had. I'm just getting outside there to show it to you. Click on the back button one more time. Look, I got to click. How about? I messed with this a few times, so every time I changed the size on that, it must have.
You were a mad
There
clicker
we go.
there.
And if you notice, I clicked too many times and I wiped out my data. So I'm going to go with the forward click. And it brings it back one step at a time. And then I'm going to do the forward click again. And that's back where we started. I didn't really want you to keep this auto formatted. So, because what I want to do now is get back to where we started. Now I want to introduce you to manual formatting. And manual formatting is very similar to auto, but you have every option available to you to make it any way you want. So let's go back and select cells B3 to J8. I'm only interested in formatting those cells. And this time I'm going to do the Control+1. We get that beautiful Format Cells dialog box that comes up. And you notice it came up in number. I don't want to change my number. I've actually got 5 other tabs up there: alignment, font, border, fill, and protection. I'd like for you to left click on border. This is we're going to be able to put a border within our data. When we do this, the first thing we need to do is select a line style. For our example, I'm just going to select the narrow solid line. I could put dash lines or dots, anything I wanted. So I've selected that, and you notice that should be highlighted on your screen. Now I'm going to select outline. And what outline will do is put an outline around all of our data. And if you notice that this little sample box we have down here, it has text in it. There is basically an outline around all of that. That represents 4 cells. So you can kind of see it goes around the outside edge. The other thing I want to do is slide straight down from outline below that example. It's called the vertical line. This will put a vertical line between each column. So I'm going to select that. You can see that little vertical line came up. Now let's say OK. I'm going to click outside my data so I can see it a little bit better. Now we have an outline around our data, and we have vertical lines between the individual columns. Here again, this is enhancing the formatting, so it's easier to read, easier to see. Let's go one more step on this. Let's put a horizontal line underneath the header. So we're going to select cell B4 to J4. Here again, it's only those cells that you select are you going to change. We'll go back and do the Control+1. This time, I'm going to use the bold line. I want it to stand out from the other. And then I'm just going to let you know, the little box right next door to automatic, if you scroll over, if you just hover over that, it'll give you the name. This is underline. I just happen to know which one it is. And you notice there, I've now got a bold underline in my little sample. Now click on OK. And now I'm going to click outside there to be able to see it. Sometimes you don't see these things until you click outside. So that line's just a hair thicker than the outline and the vertical lines. Does that look like, something might be a little bit more presentable, something you'd like to share your data with? Hopefully it's easy to read. You know exactly what each cell represents. And I basically wanted to introduce you to formatting. So what I want to do with this is absolutely a masterpiece now. I want everybody to have this at home to use it. So I'm going to go to File. I'm going to Save As. I'm going to click on my documents. And it should say Lesson 2, Part B as in boy. Click in front of that L lesson. Type in the word my. Put a space in there. And click on Save. And you should see your title bar at the very top says My Lesson 2, Part B. So you can see what we started with, something that was kind of not the most pretty thing we ever saw in our life, but it most certainly, we've changed it. We're going to keep doing this in several examples throughout the class. And I'll primarily be doing manual formatting all the way, just because I want you to be able to get your hands on it and be able to do each piece and part. And here again, this allows you to customize it to exactly the way that you want it. So I'm going to stop sharing for a second. And I'm going to go back to another screen. Share that. I want to get back to what we originally talked about, what we wanted to do today. Is organizing and formatting the worksheet. What we have done, so far today, we've talked about inserting rows and columns. You can insert them any place you want. Adjusting the column width and adjusting the row height. Here again, when it's not the right size, adjust it the way you want it to make it look. We selected different worksheets, and all we do is go down to where the sheet designations are, and just left click on whatever sheet you want to go to. We named worksheets. I showed you two ways. You could right click on the sheet name and go down to the rename function, or you could just double click on the sheet name and rename it. We added and deleted worksheets. I say, I want to question you on the deleting. Norin, be careful on this. If you delete it, it's going to be gone. So if you put a lot of work into it, that you're going to not be happy. Organizing worksheets. To organize them, what we do here is we left click on the sheet we want to move, and we either move it to the right or to the left. When you see that little arrow pointing down, you let go, and that's where the sheet's going to move to. Then we moved in to formatting. Start out with formatting cells for worksheet legibility. I just basically bolded the titles and vertical and horizontal. I could have changed my font. I could have done a multitude of things. I just wanted to show how you can change the legibility. Then we started getting into formatting cells for dates, numbers, and currency. We did each column, based upon what we wanted to have it show up. I had you enter the data in for the ones, actually enter the data for all of them. I wanted you to see whatever you typed in, the formatting is going to take over and give you back what you had originally formatted, but you don't have like a number for currency. Just if it's a whole number, just type in the number 100 and you'll get the decimal places. All depends on how you formatted it. Then we entered the formulas into cells. I wanted to show you the basis for how I created the formula so it wouldn't be too mysterious. And basically, I just converted those names to the cell designations. Then we got into auto formatting, showed you the old way and the current way. Here again, the old way, we had to add that auto formatting to the quick access toolbar. I have absolutely no idea why it came up all jumbled. It's never done that to me before. Also have a car to sell you if you want. But then I talked about, gotta mix it in a little bit. Then I mixed in the current auto formatting. So I kind of show you, you just scroll around there, you find one you like, left click on it, and it's the whole thing's formatted. Then we finished up with manually formatting. We'll get into adding colors, different things we can add, different manual formats as we go on. But I just want to show you the borders. That's the primary one that we'll be using. So that covers everything in lesson 2. And because you're such an astute class, and maybe I talk too fast, we have gotten all the way through lesson 2. So what I'm going to do for tomorrow is we're going on to lesson 3. This was going to be in Excel 2, but I found out that I can present the whole lesson in an hour and a half. And here again, I do want you to ask questions. So is there anything that I've talked about today you'd like for me to clarify?
Marty, if I can say something, you did a beautiful job today. It was an excellent presentation.
Thank you.
Secondly, what you did is remind me when I'm doing a formula to put groups in parentheses. I had forgot that part and never could get it to work right. I had to do a long way to get there. And thank you for that. I appreciate you. Made my life a lot simpler.
You're welcome. Actually, in today's formulas, did not have to have those parentheses because we were doing multiplication first.
Uh-huh.
And Excel would have actually done that multiplication that added, but I typically like to put the parentheses in. You're sure that you're doing that function first.
Yeah, good job. I think if I had one thing to add, and you're probably going to do it tomorrow, I would have centered each one of those columns in my spreadsheet, and you'll take care of that because I want it to look perfect.
Absolutely.
Thank
We're
you.
going to center, we're going to add titles, we're going to add just a multitude of things.
Dancing girls?
I can actually put them in there if you want.
Oh, no, that's okay. Thank you.
You can insert pictures and video if you really want. I don't typically do it, but it's possible.
And Marty, you know my theory of life. Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yes,
Oh,
mother.
I'll experiment. Okay.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Marty? Well, he's ready to ask and answer. And
Everything was good, but when the calculation is still confusing, because when I try to calculate, rather than showing me a numbers, it appears to me as if there is something wrong.
You know, one of the things for you to do anytime that you're entering a formula, go up and take a look at the formula bar, click on the cell you're interested in, click on that formula bar, and it will show you the formula. Sometimes you mistype something, or sometimes you enter the wrong character, but look at each character in there and you actually can edit it up there. So that might help you a little bit. Also,
Yeah, I will check that.
Also, I'd recommend, if you had a chance between now and tomorrow, go through and read lesson 2. Everything that I talked about today is included in lesson 2. So, that might clarify it a little bit if you see it in the words too.
Okay.
One of our formulas, I think, used the letter I, and from doing this class a number of times, I've seen people type a number 1 instead of the letter I, so that gain and loss formula is I6 times E6. And I've seen a lot of students type 1/6 times E6, and they get a very different answer.
And Ashok, we will be sending this recording out as soon as it downloads, so you can look at it again, just to make sure that you are on the right thing. You can split it with your screen and look at what Marty put in again versus what you have.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
And go to the written lesson plan, because that really does show you the letters there, as well as the numbers.
Another thing I can add in at the very end of lesson 2, and I should have mentioned it yesterday, there are some practice exercises back there. So, feel free to work on those on your own. If you have any troubles with them, we can talk about them tomorrow, but sometimes those clarify what we've been doing. So if not, I'm going to close for today. I want to thank everybody for participating. And with this, you know, we don't have as big a class as we had originally planned. So I encourage you to, you know, ask questions. You can unmute yourself and ask me a question anytime we're going through here, because it's not going to interrupt the class at all. So I appreciate all of you. And I do appreciate some of your questions. I want to clarify anything I say so it makes sense to you. I'm not trying to confuse you. Thank you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. We're going to do lesson 3.
Onward and upward. Tomorrow will be lesson 3, same time, same place, same link. But I will send you the lesson 3 documents later today, so you have a chance to look at those, along with the link so you can view the video again in case you've missed anything. And then, like Marty and Charlie said, to go through the actual Word document that's the actual lesson will help as well. So have a great day, everybody.
You
We'll
too.
see you.